Are you excited about the AI stuff going on out there? It occurs to me that everybody thinks Nvidia, AI equals Nvidia. Well, okay, sure, it's a dominant force in the space there, but there are tons of other names you can look at. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start breaking it down into categories. We're going to start real simple here, and we'll break down all of the AI stocks and their correlation to Nvidia, I guess in this case, to see if it's something that you want to do more research on. Remember, don't just pick what everybody else is picking. Look around. There's lots of supporting cast members out there that you may be interested in. So at the very top, what we have, we're going to do all the infrastructure of AI. We'll do 2 today, and we'll just keep going with it. You have the cloud providers. These are names you've heard of before, right? I gave you the definition. They train, run, maintain AI models through their computing and data storage solutions. That is how they would like to say it. It's very fancy there. You have Microsoft, Alphabet, or Google, Oracle, and Amazon. They are 50% correlated to Nvidia. In other words, it's going to, if Nvidia has a blast off singular day, let's call it earnings, right? What we're going to end up seeing. If they do that, you expect to see about a 50% equal move in these stocks. They are that closely correlated there, right? So something to keep in mind. Now, you've heard of those. That's the easy one. That's the very top. Big names, no problem. You could do your research, see if it's something you like. What if we go a little bit further? We're going to go off the path here just a little bit, go into the design side of things here. Have you heard of ARM Holdings, Synopsys, Cadence Designs, right? Some different names that you've probably seen their ticker symbol move up and down a little bit here and there. But what do? This is more in the intellectual property side of things, right? A lot of licensing going on, right? These guys they do make stuff. It's like they don't necessarily get out there and physically create the chips. They don't physically create the circuit boards, right? Or the whole setup for it. They're using their software, which is largely AI driven there. So you got something like ARM Holdings here. These guys license out their intellectual property, right? For companies that want to make processors. They want to make these circuit boards, things like that. Very heavily AI focused. And if you look back at their last earnings there, well, you know that a lot of their money is going to come from royalties, right? They're just like the Shark Tank stuff. Let's license it out and sit back and collect a check. Not quite like that with these guys, but you get what I'm saying there. Their licensing revenue up 60% year over year. Where do you think that's coming from? Yeah, it's all AI, right? It's the whole world. That's what they're focused on there. Synopsys, they design software that helps companies make the physical circuit boards, largely AI driven there. And so that's going to be in that category as well. This is in the design phase. This is not Nvidia out there with the latest and greatest chip, right? These are the supporting cast members there. And Cadence I think is one of the cooler ones, actually. They have a bunch of different things that they offer there, but it's an AI-driven software that helps other companies achieve whatever it is they're trying to do. So, for example, Honda wants to create an electric vehicle. They use their fluid dynamics software from Cadence, and it helps them design the shape of the car, right? Whereas a human used to have to take the car, put it in a tunnel, and watch the smoke go over and go, measure some stuff, and then go start from scratch, right? Well, this is all AI-driven, so they used it to help drive their electric vehicle design. So it's AI, but it's not AI in the traditional sense that you're used to hearing about it on TV. All right, so the reason why we point this out, you may know, AI is obviously the talk of the town, right? The talk of the street, as they would say. 41% of all companies that reported earnings on this last quarter one earnings report, 41% of them mentioned AI inside of their calls. Right, so, well, that's pretty cool. That's a new high, obviously. Let's do something cooler. Let's break it down by sector and see if there's any change there. There's actually a pretty cool way to look at this. So here's every single sector in the S&P. Then we break down the number of AI mentions in their conference calls by stock in the sector. All right, you get what I'm doing here? Check this out. Look at the energy sector. That is the biggest increase quarter over quarter of mentions in AI. So energy's trying to get in the game. They realize now, or they have been realizing, the opportunity to lower cost, improve productivity, right? Get things done. So energy really stands out. And there's a bunch of names, if you want to look through it, that are actually getting into the phase where it's generating a return, right? So it's one thing for maybe me to say, I'm going to use AI to generate the stuff at the bottom of the screen that you see. All right, that was sort of productive, but did we make anything from it? No. Okay. I'm going to use AI to go get me new clients, right? And that will generate some return for the company. That's what I mean. So a lot of the companies in the energy space now are using AI in that second phase, right? It's one thing, you talk about it, improve productivity, maybe fire some people, right? We don't need you because AI does it. I don't make the rules. So that's the first phase. Second phase is let's get a return on our investment. Not just saving money, but let's actually make money from this. That's the energy sector if you want to take a look at that. And then I would notable mention here, I'd point out the materials sector, a little bit more difficult for them. The obvious ones are tech and communication services. You kind of can picture that. Maybe even companies in the discretionary space or consumer staples where it's more retail driven, widgets are going in and out, we're tracking inventory, the basic stuff there for AI. You get the gist of what I'm saying. We're going to look at the designers, people that actually design, but don't necessarily make the chips, right? So it's a lot of that AI-driven software and, of course, human know-how to get that done. The names on the screen is what you see there. These names are 48% correlated to Nvidia. So, well, let's see. Nvidia is up after hours about 4% there, thanks to their earnings. And we'll cover it in a minute, but just selling the devil out of stuff. And so these are the names to look at. Some of them you may recognize, some of them you may not recognize. Broadcom is a pretty obvious one. Now it's just AVGO. It used to be BRCM. If you're old enough, you know. These guys are interesting. I'm not telling you to buy the stock. I'm just saying these guys are interesting because their focus, you know how every company has a mission. Well, these guys are like, hey, we're not going to go chase what's hot. Kind of. But we're going to look for what they call durable markets, meaning things that they can sink their teeth into for 10 years or more, 10 to 20 years, their time horizon, and build a moat. They want to get into a space, and then they want to be so competitive in that space that people just can't keep up with them. And what does that allow you to do? And by the way, they've done really well. If you have a competitive advantage, or you've decided to go into some area of your particular market, and you can dominate, what does that mean? It means you can hold on to your margins and probably drive your margins higher. These guys have proven that they can do that. If you look at the gross margins of those semiconductor solution stocks that are out there, Broadcom ranks in 4th place, being able to hang on to their margins. That's what happens when you take that aggressive approach as a business and you don't try to chase everything else that's out there. Moving on, some of the other names, well, I'll give you another one. Marvell on the list there as well. I find this one fascinating because Marvell says, hey, in the AI space, we expect our revenue just from AI, not total, they do a lot more than this, but just their AI revenue to be $1.5 billion. I think they do about $5.5 billion a year. So they expect to do 1.5 from AI. And then in 2026, $2.5 billion, half of their total revenue from AI. So that's what you've got if you look at those sort of things. That is that category. Again, 48% correlated to the price of Nvidia. Moving on, we've got the manufacturers. Yep, there you go. There's a lot of them out there. These guys are 45% correlated. You may recognize names like AMAT, CLAC, ASML, LRCX, Lam Research, Teradyne, etc., that are sort of popular that you can see, or that make headlines every now and then. You know what I'm saying? Like sort of brand name, I guess, if you want. ASML, anyways, they're not based here in the United States. I believe they're based in probably the Netherlands, if I'm correct there. These guys are interesting because they say, hey, with what we have, they believe, and so far have been correct, no one can replicate our technology for at least 10 years. Pretty cool there, huh? They also spend a multiple of what everybody else spends on R&D. So they're dedicated to being at the forefront of all of this. Now that's maybe a pro and a con, right? Because what do we not want to see people do right now in this type of economy? We don't want to see you spend money on research and development. We want to see you returning cash to shareholders. Remember the chart that I shared with you there? Anyways, if you look at those, that is the update here for today. These two categories here, and yesterday, by the way, are the most correlated to whatever Nvidia does. So if you happen to look at these stocks tomorrow and go, why are they up about half of whatever Nvidia is? There you go. Right? Little lesson for you. Let's do some stocks in the news. So a different way to talk about it. Just thought we'd go over some different ways of looking at AI, and we will continue to do that because I see the emails. I worry that you guys are just sort of jumping all in Nvidia and you're not interested or curious about what else is out there. That's a shame.